Welcome to the mountain in us, where the journey gets its voice. I am Taran Singh. This season, we take on new trails for deep rooted reflections on our passions, paths, and purpose. Together, let's explore the thrills, ascents, and descents of our uncharted adventures. Hey, everybody. Today, we are exploring art as a universal healer with our guest, Wendy. Moving from post war Vietnam to California, Wendy pivoted from commercial advertising to expressive art therapy to heal, share joy, and create. Today, she's an abstract painter, therapist, and above all, a curator of community art events. Welcome to the show, Wendy.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity to share more about art as a healing tool and also a way to connect, and hopefully talking more about the projects that I'm working on, also giving more life into it. Yeah, so thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, we will love to hear, but we will begin with your early
Mm-hmm.
life. You grew up in Vietnam during the post-war recovery, and as a child, it must be an experience that both sends chills, but also an experience that shapes a lot about who you are. Can you talk to us? What was your experience growing up as a child during the post-war recovery period?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, so I was born in 1990, which is I would say like a decade or two after we got independent, and reunited from the North and the South, without going to too much of like history, right? Or like history lesson or anything. So growing up in Ho Chi Minh City, I do see, as I was a very observant kid, and also growing up in an entrepreneur household, it's also allowed me to see more things. And my parents both are very appreciators of the arts. My mom used to love to write, creative writing, but kind of got caught into doing business. And then my dad was a visual artist, and he did sculpture in the past, or went to school for it. And then now he retired, semi-retired, and playing the guitars or like singing, just to like keep that part alive. But so like being entrepreneurship, I think it's kind of run in the family, in the blood of like seeing things, seeing opportunities, seeing things with curiosity. And so be able to see a lot of changes over the years in the country, in the city. And as a kid growing up, I think because of as the world opening up to my country, the economics like kind of slowly shift and change as well. And then I think my family were able to kind of move up in economically speaking as well. So I was moving homes, and every time moving homes, that's been like we kind of upgraded.
How was war like was there reference of war? Like, how, I mean, I know you said it's almost 10 years after the reunion of North and South Vietnam, and
Mhm.
for our guest, right, Ho Chi Minh City is part of South Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
Right, right. So in terms of what was there a background of war in the household? Like, how did you come to know what had happened?
I think I started with the speaking about my family business and like the economic stuff too, because I do uh, appreciate it and give a lot of credits to my success, or my privileges in terms of access to knowledge, more to that. And in terms of, to answer your question, the post-war was a feeling. It was always like a heavy feeling. It was something there that wasn't been spoken of. So that's, I guess, the artist side of me, that the intuitive side is always seeing that the music's always very sad. We have a lot of comics. We have a lot of things to laugh about, or I mean, like there's a lot of comedy. And I think that's down the line as an adult, I realized that like that's how we were dealing with things, we were coping with things so that we can not make light of it, but because of it, we want to create a light environment. And so growing up, yeah, there's a in a sense of a tension that is not necessarily between human that is a tension, but it's because of things that each of us experience individually, collectively, and then down the line, I hear a story of like maybe one of it is like I think my maybe the first story that I can recall or start my questioning of what was war was that we would we would celebrate my dad's birthday and on different dates randomly, and at some point it kind of caught on and it's like wait a minute, like he doesn't have a birthday, like why? So then it turned out that because when my grandma gave birth to him, she was running between cities to avoid a war. Again, like not to speak to like the detail of it. So then like the day wasn't clear. She was like, it could be, Monday or Friday. So then they just pick a date. And I think that's kind of universal, not just to my dad, but like other folks as well. And then story continued. They could have seen like dead body in between when they were running and how they were like grandma will have to shield their eyes. And so yeah, I think those are the early exposure of it without re-traumatizing the kid. And then down the line, I'm just really excited to learn about history. And I think that's how me and my dad bond. Because me and my mom, we will bond by, cooking together, eating, shopping together. But me and my dad are usually expert in history and politics. Like he would watch the news and I'm like, okay, sure, I watch with you. But I think, yeah, like be able to bond with both of them in different aspects was really helpful too.
Yeah. Has he broken the tradition of celebrating his birthdays multiple time a year, or he still
I think
uh,
we stick to a date now. Like we just stick to February 16. We're like, I think that's easier to remember. Not to remember, but just like let's just make that's your birthday. Yeah. At
yeah,
least the year is correct, so it's like, yeah, and at least the month is correct. I think that's kind of now thinking about it too, is like there's more flexibility in that way. That like the young generation and myself included can be very rigid on certain things. Like it has to be exact, right? Like when you give birth in I was born in a hospital, so there's like down to the minute. But when you're like don't
yeah,
have that. It's like, oh, it can be this week, it can be last week. Who knows, right?
yeah,
It's yeah. So put thing in
yeah,
perspective. I think like story like that really put things in perspective.
yeah,
And yeah.
yeah. At least, yeah, and her, your father's mother, right? She probably knows the weight of delivering the baby more than the time that matter to us as look at it. I was born during a snowstorm, but I have no clue. I was a child, right? And but away, right? I grew up in a very peaceful abode in the
Mm,
Himalayas, right? So I was never exposed to that kind of violence, at
yeah.
least in the trauma. But but going back to your family, you also have a brother, and
Mm.
how was growing up, and you are also your interests are also, was it like both of you had to find times with your parents because your parents were also doing so many things, and your father was helping siblings? How was growing up uh, and getting educated in that household? How were you guys nurtured?
Thank you. Yeah. It's when you're asking the question, I'm like, oh, I just grow up like how other kids grow up, but it's not. But
That's
because that's not that's I mean that's part of the truth, right? As a kid, that's normal. So yeah, to kind of piggyback on that, because the economy. So when I was 7 years old is when, so it's 1997. That's when the WTO, the World Trade Organization, open up to Vietnam because we was in sanction before that. Um, so I remember that my parents, it's very interesting how memory works. I remember we were in a pho restaurant and near our house that we usually go to for breakfast. And that time, um, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton was visiting Vietnam to announce that the WTO was open to the country. And so that was like used at a celebration, right? So then my mom and my dad was like watching it with, and their conversation was like, oh, this is gonna be good for our economy. And so that's kind of like stick to my 7 years old brain. Is like, oh, my parents pay attention to this, so therefore I paid. And my mom was like, oh my God, Hillary Clinton's her dress is so nice. I'm like,
What,
okay,
what,
yeah.
were
Yeah.
you know, were you aware they were Clintons at that time, or you got to know that later in your life, or they were Bill and Hillary Clinton?
I think at that time I already know that they were Bill and Hillary Clinton. I mean, yeah, without again going to too much politics that I know later on. So yes, and then I can kind of see too, like since 7 years old, the my point to this is yeah, they get busier. But growing up, we would have the factory in the back. We would have our house, the factory in the back, the um well, not factory, but the place where we make clothes. It's maybe in the middle actually, and all the way in the back is like our bedrooms area. And then in front is like the place to sell it, right? So it's like what all in
Yeah,
one stop or something like that. So growing up
at,
is no one
at least there were no commute for your parents.
exactly. They just walk down, walk back in. Exactly. And there's no like, and for me, I would be friend with like the staff and the employees too. And I would just help, like sometimes I help them clean even. So that's my childhood. Like it takes a village. So that's literally the village that I was growing up with.
Yeah,
And then some of my aunts and uncle, but they have their own family and they live 20 minutes, not too far, but yeah, I don't, we try to, I think we hang out once a week, once or twice a week as a big family. So I think, yeah, I think my parents did their best to create viable environment for us. I'm, I'm an old soul kid, so I was never really craving hanging out with folks my age. So I think hanging out with adult is like more fun for me. So I guess my brother experience could be different, right? But I'm like, oh, I'm chilling, you know. I'm the baby. I've been taken care of, so
yeah.
there's no, yeah.
So that, yeah,
And
this, I
mhm.
mean, less fights, less sibling fights, or zero sibling fights.
Exactly, yeah. And also like one last point for this question is and I got and I get extra opportunity to go to like after school or like weekends go to music school or like drawing classes and other sport too, right? So it's like it's pretty good. It's pretty decent
Yeah,
life to me.
yeah. Oh, that's great to hear. You know, having parents and family to get you to muscle up, and finally fast forward, right? You decided uh, to pursue higher education in California, San Francisco, and while your brother was in Australia, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you picked up advertising as your first academic path. Talk to us. How did advertising come to in picture in your life?
So I always love arts, right? This is since day one. Like at 3 years old, I always draw on the wall, draw on the. So there's a certain point. Like at a certain point, it's like an agreement with me and my parents. Is like I can draw on the wall, but only in the bathroom. So that's like the limitation. Because I'm not even just doing pencil. I do like oil, oil painting. Um, so
I know who to hire now to redo my bathroom.
sure, you want whatever style you want. Yeah. Yeah, love doing I still want to continue doing like bigger and bigger pieces and performance. So that's later on, right? So at this point in my life, knowing that I love art, but the application of art, right? It's so abstract. dancing, music, drawing, philosophy. And this is the narrative that I think everyone is familiar with, especially creative folks and artists. Art doesn't make money. You can't make a living out of it. So, what can I convince my parents for me to send me abroad to study? And they sponsor the whole thing, right? So I have to have a coffee with my dad and be like, you know what? I can do advertising. Advertising can make money. Marketing, advertising can make money. So we agree on that. So that's how that's the first part. But it's an
That,
advertising in an art school, right? Not advertising
I
in a
think,
business school.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it was a good bit to get to arts, but you didn't stick long in the art world for advertisement, right? You
Yeah.
said no, this is good enough, but you switched to healing as an art therapist, right?
Yeah.
And you did tell me in our earlier conversation how you found out that this is your calling.
Mhm.
Share a little bit more about it, right? How that became your calling, to do healing rather than pursuing advertising full time.
Right, yeah. So I think in this conversation, I want to highlight the intuition part of I guess as an artist, maybe it's more innate in me to move with that. And I want to highlight that so that the thinking part doesn't drag me out too much on what I needed to say and intuitively want to communicate. So intuitively, honestly, in art school, even I have option to choose like a few elective, right? But I actually even expand my elective classes and do the minimum classes in advertising so that I can expose to more way of doing art, like even to film, to other industry, because I like it to do it. So one of the things that I come across was a theater production that highlight women's issue, and the playwright is Eve Ensler. And so it's like a monologues of 32 monologues about different it from like funny experiences to child growing up into womanhood and to some like more traumatic experiences. So I was able to host and produce this production in my school for 3 years in a row, and I was surprised that it was never being produced at that school, because in art school and this production, this play, was very popular at the time. It was like almost every university and colleges have it. So the idea of it is to raise, fundraise money to donate back to women's shelter in the city. So doing that production, I think kind of opened me up to like, oh, art can be for community, art can be for advocacy, art can be from the heart, and very, very poignant, and can be political too, right? But in a point of like to empower and to uplift each other. It's not to rage bait in a way. So was able to do that for 3 years. So in that community that I created or like navigate within, right? I meet, I met two folks who continue to be my mentors until today. One was the vice president of the school. She actually was the invisible hand in this situation, was making things move along, because I was just a student requesting the school to do all this and print all this, and they were like, who are you? But it's so kind of aligned in a way that like the vice president at the time, she was also in this kind of like in production of, she was an actress in a play like this before, so she knows the impact of it. So she was like, okay, let me move this along. So then it can, I didn't know that until at the end of until I graduated. And she's like, oh yeah, I make things happen. I'm like, thank you. Why it
Yeah,
wouldn't happen, you know? So
but
that's her.
yeah, I want to take a pause here and ask, right? This what you said there, and building the community. if
Mm-hmm.
in a country that you never lived prior, and you
No,
just
yeah.
moved from Vietnam, and in the 3 years you were able to build this community. It must be both satisfying, but there must have been challenges early on that you must have faced, right? Uh, but I just want to ask this question that you can answer later in the pieces. Is like, did that reflect in the artwork you did later of how you
Mhm.
moved shores from Vietnam to the United States and started building a community net new because you didn't know anybody here?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for highlighting that. Again, I just do the thing, like I when there's it's a pros and cons. I'm a Capricorn. I don't know how much you or your listeners checking out the astrology. I only follow like 1/10 of 1% of what actually the
Yeah,
planetary and the placement. I get lost in those, but I know that like one of the characteristics for Capricorn is you would go like you see the goat that climbing the mountain. It's like the mountain is vertical, but the goat is like right here, like vertical with the mountain and continue going up.
yeah.
So I
Well, I
didn't
do
think.
not know about the Capricorn, but the mount. That's why the podcast is called "The Mountain in Us." That the climb is always going, right? This is the climb we all do, and keep saying. I did. I just wanted to get the mountain part right.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, that's totally relevant and totally aligned in that way too. I remember hearing and seeing your podcast. I use the word seeing a lot because I'm a visual learner, so I see the podcast in terms of like the logo and everything and the name. So as a mountain climber, when there's a mission before me, I would just do it. It doesn't. I didn't even think at the time that I'm in a new country. Like I'm just hey. So I think similarly down the line too, in the work that I do right now too, like I just moved to San Diego 3 years ago. And again too, I'm building community and making things happen, right? So I guess there's a parallel process there. So then advertising, that's the first part about art for for good, not for good, not that advertising is not good. Art for healing, art for humanity. I saw the glimpse of that and I saw the impact of it. And I saw how it changed me. So fast forward a little bit to the end of my studying in advertising. I was starting to doing intern in different agency, and it's fun. It's nice office. Budget is high, budget is big, so you can kind of do anything with it. Um, and it looked good on the resume, right? So it's all that. And then back to the feeling of emptiness or cold, not emptiness within me, so to speak, but empty in the space. I would walk in and I'm like, what? Like it startled the system. As if you're walking in, I don't know, like you in tank top and short on a hot day in summer, and you would walk into those Costco freezer section. That kind of shock to your system. It's like, oh, okay, I'm here, but do I like it? Some folks like it. I just know that I don't. So then I kind of consult back to my other mentors at the time was the drama professor who was also helping with the theater production, right? So I'm like, oh, I don't feel that way. I mean, and then she recommended there's drama therapy, and there's actually a school down the street. It's quite literally that, not literally, but it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes walk from each other that has drama therapy, expressive art therapies. So I'm like, what's that? She's like, look it up. So then I look it up. It's about my expressive art therapy is about combining different modality of arts to help the person express themselves. And a lot of time, our anger, our sadness, our disappointment, and the emptiness of all is that we can't communicate with ourselves or others, cannot express. It's like, I think a lot of Eastern medicine is on like if they're stagnant of energy, stagnant, or even a blood clot, right? Like we don't want a blood clot. So when things move along, when things flows, things operate. So therefore we in health, we at ease. So the dis-ease is the disease, right? Is it's not easy. Like, why do I feel this way? But I can't pinpoint to it. I can't put a finger to it. And the 5 modalities are visual art, music, movement, drama, and creative writing, which is kind of allude to all that I've been shared earlier, like
Yeah.
including myself, my activity, and my parents. Oh, and also fun fact. Now my brother is also in a band for hand panning the music instrument, and he also played the saxophone and the guitar. So it's a very artsy family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I picked up writing. Funny you said that. I'm not an artist by life, and even this podcast is, in my opinion, a creative expression of myself. Is to what you said, is to keep the flow of life rolling. The blood, similar to blood clot,
Mm-hmm.
our feeling can also get a clot, and if we do not know how to expunge those clot out of our feeling ecosystem, we are going to feel depressed, lonely, empty, whatever you want to say, right? And and the more we hold, the more we feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so now you become, you went to the theater school, and finally, how was it getting to your first job, right? It must. How was Wendy in a room when she had to really do the work of the work?
Oh, so so art therapy is including two sides of things, the artistic side, the abstract, the symbolism, and the therapy of the West, which is very cognitive, very analytical, which again, nothing wrong with it. And I think when two or three things merge is create a new diverse object, thinking thought that be able to address more than one modality of it. So there are a lot of me in the room. A lot of it is also I would credit for the training in the school. Is one of the first lesson we learned or lecture was a practice of active listening and actually listen and then discover that a lot of time I listen to respond, and that's human tendency to listen to respond rather than to listen and to understand. So even pausing and slowing things down, and now I can capture myself. My pace now I think is slower than at the beginning when I start talking. So being more in the moment I think helps to take away like the rush of things. So I appreciate that you holding a space of like no rush, right? Because I do the business side, I do hold both. I hold the art therapist side, and the business side is to get things done. And then the art therapist is to sit with it.
Yeah, no,
Um,
you got to create that balance somehow, right? Otherwise, you
yeah.
can, it can take forever to to express, and we as humans, we are not here for forever, so we are also time bound in many ways. But I understand what you're saying there.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for piggyback on that. And to share another piece about the work that I do, especially for because I do community mental health for the past 10 years and youth development. And so with medical insurance, there's certain limitation. The great part is that the patient doesn't have to pay out of pocket, which is awesome. And the shortcoming of that is that it's every 6 months we have to reassess and put in more goal. And I mean, there's rooms around it, and I have client who I work with up like almost over 2.5 years. So and at the same time, there's so much to work on, right? Like we're talking about youth who have risk, or the first job that I started was refugee with PTSD, war PTSD, to help them back on their feet, right, or whatever that looked like. So a lot of patience and a lot of, I was thinking earlier too, how to share this is like be the agent of hope. Um, and that I think it's more critical than any technique that I can offer. Because
Yeah.
without the hope that thing can get better or things, the hope and the holding to the light of that, my belief is that we were born good, we were born pure, right? And then things happen. And it's not just in this lifetime, it's our parents, our parents, our parents. So then there's a concept of Ubuntu, is an African philosophy of saying that you are because I am because you are. So it's the talking about the interdependenceness of all of us, in community and also by blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and that's, first of all, thank you for what you do. Your kindness is hope to so many of us, right? And especially, United States is a place where a lot of people find hope, happiness, and their well-being, because this is the land of free, and also where freedom is actually valued in ways where, a lot of places freedom is suffocated, right? But I also want to
Mm-mm.
take a pivot to the other side, and
Mm-mm.
bring this conversation whole, is what you do, and to make sure that you yourself have the joy of creation, right? You also spend enough time outside of this to take care of your own self, which is also a very important part of your life.
Mm-mm.
And
Mm-mm.
you have grown as an abstract painter. You where we met in a gallery, what you do
Mm-mm.
there is amazing. uh, how did you come to that eureka moment that I better take care of myself, and I better do these things to ensure that I am not carrying the burden of hope, but also hopeful about my own self.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for putting this part in. I think this is important for everybody in any field, right? The idea of you can put your mask put a mask on yourself first before putting a mask for others, and at the same time, do not take that to the extreme of selfishness. And I only have this mask for myself, and I want to make sure all the oxygens go to me and everyone else is suffocating. So there's a balance for the helper always wants to help, so I have to dial it back. And then the one who take need to give a little bit. So I think that's a philosophy that I do try to follow overall. And to your point of like knowing, so that's in theory, right? And then in practice, I have done or mindlessly coping with ways that are not helpful also in the past when I first started. So kind of like trial and error, and it's like, okay, I can't keep doing this um for a long period of time. So I think like be able to
And
have
at that,
activity that I look forward
yeah,
to. And
something that, when you got to that awareness that I couldn't be doing this mindless, did something happen, or what was the pivot, like what caused the pivot?
oh, oh yeah. I think the pivot was after a while looking at the social network, the people I surround myself with around it. Like we would go out for fun is to drink, right? Like that's very normalized, and at the same time there should be more than that. There should be more ways that we can connect than having a drink, going to the bar, going to the club. So it's not really anything detrimental happen, which is thankfully that I operate that way. I don't need something to be like, oh my God, then I change. I'd be like, I don't think this is sufficient long in the long run. And maybe like hearing some drama, being like close vicinity of some drama, I'm like, I don't think this happened to one too many times. I don't like that. And so stepping back, it's all and again, it's no straight line. It's a dance
Yeah.
because
Um,
yeah.
but what you said there, I want to take a maybe a little bit of a pause there, like finding an escape route versus pivoting to a reflective route
Mm-hmm.
of engagement. That happens to everybody, that every young person goes through this, especially in this country, or in any country today, right? Because of uh, per, both substance addiction and media addiction is so high, right?
Yeah.
And right, so I want to maybe take a minute or two to talk about, as you have worked in this space and you have also um, changed your course of life. What are some of the things that you can tell to others to adopt early in their life, so they can enjoy the world of enjoy the living in a way that is meaningful to them?
Right. Yeah. Um, so I'm 36 now. Um, and I would say because hmm,
Uh, you might
I
be
think,
36, but you have seen so much life in interaction that you have so much wisdom that
oh
comes
yeah.
your way that I think, without giving us the names, even if it is in the form of story or any anecdote, I just want to hear from you. What should be our bearings to not get lost forever in.
Right, right. Yeah, thank you. No, it's I appreciate you naming that because I do move in ways that I know I have more stories and learning from it a lot. So I would say finding finding yourself first before getting lost in the world things. And it could look like journaling, doing things that if you can afford to, right? Like don't do anything that is breaking your bank just to do it. Um, Try not to chase trend too much. Um, Things like that, like things that are superficial, it's not fulfilling. So that's where, even though I was at the beginning of my career, was in very uh like a depth of a profession, like a profession before like require a lot of depth. I was still chasing the superficial things, right? But then learning that like those doesn't give the same fulfillment. So I guess like find things that fulfill you rather than distract you. Because a lot of social media nowadays, technology, and I'm using all of them, mostly Instagram. Um, it's distraction. So the distraction is buying your time, buying your attention. That's the commodity nowadays, right? It's not necessarily, I mean, your information too. It's definitely a commodity, but it's easier to control someone who's distracted or like manipulate someone who's distracted while that person is also not fulfilled. So I think, and that's maybe like a compass that hopefully folks can find for themselves as they navigating up to the mountain,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
that
and
is that is so necessary, but so well put. So thank you for putting that. Is that if you're distracted and if you're not satisfied, you are commodity to so many things, and then you can be easily manipulated, right? And um, but I want to come to the last question: is your art piece? What art piece you're working on, and when is it going to be displayed and where?
okay, so there's a few projects, right? As always. So one project at the Broker Gallery gonna be in mid-September to early November, gonna be 6 weeks, is to exhibit the works of the at-risk youth that I'm working with, to highlight or showcase that amidst their struggle, amidst their depression, anxiety, a lot of things throw at them, poverty, they're still expressing themselves, and the parents or the caregiver or even the communities still can find ways to support, with materials, with scraps, to make art, to express themselves. And I will have some of my pieces, none of the new pieces, but more of my own little biography of how I grow as a art therapist and an artist as well.
Yeah,
And
that's such a unique way to give and to connect pieces and bring everybody on board.
yeah, yeah, I would say to honestly convince a youth to share their art is, I think it was pretty awesome that they say yes, because they were like, no, 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 I don't want anyone to, which is fair, like they're still young and a lot of self-doubt and shame from other stuff. But I was able to maybe see them and say like, maybe do you want your younger self a year ago to see this artwork that you made today that you're so proud of? And in that way, it's something clicked, right? And the youth was like, yeah. So I'm like, yeah, so this is a way for other folks who still struggling to see that it can, another expression is possible. So I think that's one of the main, the short-term project. A bit more long-term projects are building community art events, maybe put together a few local art festivals in San Diego, that highlight community more too, and self-sustaining models. So we don't need to rely on big corporation for sponsorship and such. Yeah, so those are the two
Yeah.
that I'm working on. Yeah, thanks for asking.
No, we will end it here and we'll put some notes on where we can find Wendy's art and all this beautiful work she is doing. But thank you for coming and thank you for sharing these incredible pivots and stories about your journey.
Yeah, thank you for giving the time and the space here, Tarrant. Oh, and then thank you for sharing your poetry. 3 months ago in an open mic in at the Broker
Yeah,
Gallery, looking at, yeah. So I think that's how, for the listeners, right, audience, is like that's how I was connected with Tarrant, because I'm like, your words are really powerful and very expressive, very creative, very courageous also. So yeah, I'm looking
yeah,
forward to read your books as well, and thank you for, yeah, the opportunity and be able to connect more with the creatives.
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Conversation Trails of the Mountain in Us podcast. Each episode here is crafted with love, adventure, and reflection. We hope you have enjoyed this one and we welcome your thoughts on it. And if you want to be on the show, feel free to reach out.